Hi folks, Dr. Tim Kitchen here for another Wednesday webinar, and thank you very much for joining us. We've got quite a few people who have joined us in the audience live for this very special panel session. As our panelists are gradually coming back onto the stage, thank you very much for joining us. This particular topic is called Gen AI in Education, Benefits and Pitfalls. And I've been looking forward to this session for quite a while as we've been building up to it, because it's such a topic that is like a hot topic at the moment. Everyone's talking about Gen AI, people are wondering at how to implement it, what are the issues with it, should we be banning it, should we be encouraging it? There's so many different thoughts out there, and I've selected a group of panelists that I'm very, very happy to have with us, because they've come from a range of different parts of Australia, a range of different experiences. I've worked with every one of these people, and I'm looking forward to their insights in this topic. Before we get started though, introducing them formally, let's do the official welcome videos. Thank you for joining this Wednesday webinar with the ANZ Adobe Education team. In the spirit of reconciliation, Adobe acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respect to their elders past and present and extend that respect to all Indigenous Australians. Now it's over to the Adobe Education team. There we go. What a wonderful voiceover artist that person was. I make that joke every time and I'm still not getting any laughs. Maybe I should stop. I'm going to start by asking Pip Cleaves to introduce herself. I've known Pip for, I think, 14 years now, is when we first met. And she's done a whole lot of work since then in all sorts of areas. But tell us a bit about yourself and what you're currently doing, Pip.
Hey, hi everyone, and hi to all those people who I've met in the past. I currently am what am I at the moment? I think we're calling me the Chief Operating Officer at Global Village Learning, which is a small alternative independent school in the Macedon Ranges of Victoria. We do everything you don't do in school. We don't have bells, we don't have uniforms, we don't have classes, we don't have tests, we do personalised learning, and every young person is able to explore a curriculum that they're interested in and they have passions in. We also just bought a jail, which anyone who's been on for a bit would have heard me just say. Shared the link because we're slightly excited by it. So we bought the old Castlemaine jail about 45 minutes up the track, and we're really excited to bring life back to something that was used predominantly to take life away from people. So it's a really exciting place to be able to build a community, which inside it has a learning community as well. We also have a bus called the Unbounded Education Experience, where young people are able to choose to be on the bus 4 days a week, and they choose where they're going to. So they organise their excursions and their offsites and organise their lunches, and 1 day a week they stay home and do some online stuff, but the rest of the time they're exploring the world around them. So it's like authentic learning to the maximum, shall we say. So I get to work with Peter Hutton to implement all the crazy ideas and have a wonderful time doing so.
Very special, Pip. Thank you for joining us today. We're really
Hi, thanks for having me.
Good. And for those of you who remember, if you were part of our summit last year, you would remember that Pip was our keynote presenter for our Melbourne summit. So if that voice is sounding slightly familiar, that's where you would have seen her. Let's hear from Matt Esterman. Matt, for those people that haven't met you, which I'm sure is not that many because you've been around the traps for a long time, but for those who may not know who you are and what you're doing, tell us a bit about your background and what you're currently doing, Matt.
Sure. Thanks, Tim. Hi, everyone. Hi to all friends and almost edu family, really, considering I've known so many of you for so long, and I've certainly been appreciative of all the influence you've had on me. Look, I'm a history teacher by training. I was in schools for 20 years, and then I've just jumped out to help schools and other places navigate this weird AI world and whatever that means for them. So working with some schools in a long-term way, some schools just diving in for a professional learning rapid fire session, and then working with some other committees and things like that around the world, which is really exciting. And I get to work with Dr. Nick Jackson on that writing thing. And I did find a copy of our book, Nick, as it happens, The Next Word. And yeah, it was really a fun process. Neither of us had really done that kind of a thing before, but I highly recommend anyone who, you've all got something to say and you've all got a story to tell. And I really highly recommend any educator to give it a go and to try and capture your story into some sort of published form. It was just a wonderful experience. So yeah, I just get to do a whole bunch of fun things in the ed tech kind of space, and a few other projects as well. So I'm just loving life and love being able to connect with all of you. Thanks so much.
Good on you, Matt. Thank you for joining us. Well, let's go straight to Dr. Jackson now. Nick, fellow author with Matt in South Australia. Thanks for joining us, and tell us a little bit about what you do in South Australia.
Hi, so I'm Dr. Nick Jackson. I work in a school as the leader of digital technologies at Scotch College in Adelaide, and that means I work across 3 campuses, the senior campus, the junior campus, and in ELC, doing all sorts of tech integration. But of course, my life is dominated by AI, which is first and foremost what we're struggling through, as everybody else is, with the complexities of this technology and the way it impacts teachers and students and professional services alike. And also get involved in immersive technologies and everything from the everyday LMS sort of things right through to iPads in ELC. And then outside of here, I try to avoid Matt, who keeps trying to get me to write more things for a book. And and then generally work with all sorts of educators and schools around the world, trying to understand more about AI and its place in the world, I guess, and help people with that.
Excellent. Thank you, Nick. Thanks for joining us. Molly Turner. Molly, for those who don't know you, you've got an Adobe logo right there on your top right-hand side of your screen, or left as we're looking at it. Tell us a bit about what you do.
Yeah, thank you so much, Tim, and I'm really happy to be part of this panel today. So as you can see, I do work for Adobe, but my background's teaching. So I was a high school teacher for many, many years in a wonderful school, a little bit like yours, Pip, called Press Hill in Melbourne. And I made my way to EdTech because I really saw the power that technology had in impacting my students in a really positive way, really engaging them, particularly my reluctant language learners in my French classroom. And so I wanted to be able to celebrate that with teachers, and so found my way to ed tech, and I now have the wonderful job of working at Adobe in a fantastic team of educators, and we get to go around and support teachers, educators and students to use technology to drive digital literacy, which is obviously, and creativity, of course, being at Adobe, really key skills for going out into that workforce and succeeding.
Thanks, Molly. All right, some of you would have met this guy. His name is Brett Salakas. He is the Hewlett-Packard Education Ambassador, but so much more. Brett, tell us a bit about what you're currently doing. Give us a bit of your background too.
I just wanted to be transparent and very clear here. I'm actually a AI clone of Brett. I've been pre-trained and recorded to actually give answers. And we'll just see how we go with the session here. So we'll see how that lines. Actually, I know that's a really lame sort of way to start, but in the last 2 weeks, there's been 2 very, very controversial articles in Australian newspapers. One about the host or the owner of Duolingo saying that AI will replace teachers and we'll be able to have digital teachers, but schools will still exist and teachers will still exist because we need childcare. So that was out there. And then, of course, very controversially, I think there was a Cogniti, which some of you may be aware of. But Cogniti, just the Australian Financial Review actually came out and gave Cogniti an award. And then during the award recipient, the award process, I think there was a lot of language about the cloning of teachers and being able to have teacher clones on tap for students 24/7. And I did notice that The Age and the Sydney Morning Herald actually retracted that last Friday, but the Financial Review ran it again on Monday with a slightly tweaked version. So I think language matters, and we have to be very, very careful about the role of teachers, the vision of teachers, and where the money is coming to actually put AI in education. We need to be very wise, and we need to go very cautiously as we traverse this journey.
All right. Thank you, Brett. So, Brett, just quickly, your teaching background, for those who haven't met you before.
I'm a humble primary school teacher by trade, and I've got a few things to say about technology, and we'll see how we go in the conversation.
Now, let's jump into our first question. And while I'm posing this first question, which I've already provided to our panelists in advance, just letting them know, if you, those of us who are with us live, we've got about 30 or so people with us live at the moment. If you want to throw in a question into the chat, Briggs is in the background there. He'll be able to moderate and then share some of those questions that he thinks are relevant for us, for our audience who are watching the recording. By the way, folks, I don't know if you're aware of this. I haven't mentioned you wouldn't be aware of this. When we looked at how many people were interested in this session, we noticed that over 4,000 people had gone into the site to consider registering. That's amazing. So who knows how many people are going to be watching the recording of this, which is incredible. All right, first question, briefly describe your role and how you are seeing Gen AI being used to help teaching and learning within your context. Obviously, you've already mentioned a little bit about your role, but let's go more specifically now into the AI side, how it's being used to help teaching and learning. So we're looking at the positive side, I guess, in this case. Let's start with Matt. Over to you.
Sure, thank you. So I think there are three particular things to think about. One is the way students are using it, the way teachers are using it in a student-facing way, and the way teachers are using it not in a student-facing way. So by that, I mean the way, of course, students are using it in the classroom that we can see. Of course, there's a whole bunch of stuff we can't see, but we can't necessarily manage that. So what can we see students doing? And that's all sorts of different things, whether you're in a public school in New South Wales or South Australia, and you've got access to My EduChat or EduChat, or you've got access to different sort of official and endorsed platforms, or whether you're a young person that also exists outside of a school environment and uses a whole plethora of other tools as well. Then I'm seeing an interesting dynamic between what teachers are using to teach in the classroom, to prepare and be transparent about with students and colleagues in that sort of staff room, classroom context. And then there's the context of what teachers are doing at their desk and at home and in the back office kind of a way. And I think a lot of, say, the workload conversation fits into that third bucket, the behind the scenes stuff that teachers do, whereas a lot of the assessment and academic integrity stuff fits into those other two buckets of what students are doing, what teachers are doing to model it. So that's sort of the three dimensions I see: the students and what they're doing, the teacher work that's student facing, and then the teacher work that's not necessarily student facing. And there are different use cases in each of those. And it's a huge ecosystem of use cases as well.
Great. Thanks, Matt. Pip, your thoughts?
So for me, I guess I see AI, for me at the moment, it's just another one of my tools. It's like a whiteboard or a browser for me. I have about 17 custom GPTs that I use every day, or not all of them every day, but I use them regularly. While none of them are replacing people, they're kind of helping me to be more human, because I'm spending less time on administration and more time hanging out with the young people, which is why I love my job as a leader in a learning community like Global Village Learning. My custom GPTs are everything from a data analysis through to generating new ideas. We've just recently made one for our out of hours care, so a guide can type in the resources they've got, get a quick little activity, nice and short, for something that would used to give them a little bit of stress. We've got ideas for, we've got Joan, Joan is our secretary, who knows everything about GVL, and she's great for getting consistency in terms of our external communications out to people. I've got Hannah, the social media rep, who helps me to write some social media. I have Mateo, who is my Seek job writer. Who else have I got? I've got Joe, who helps me with my VCEVM compliance work. So I use it from everything from compliance to ideation, even have one for my own. Of course, everyone has a GPT for their therapy these days. So my therapist, Etta, is fantastic at keeping me on the straight and narrow and nice and calm at work as well. So for me, it's just another tool.
Love it.
So just clarifying, so you've humanized and named all of your GPTs?
Yeah, they're part of the team, man.
That's
They
so
are
cool.
part of, they do the job of a human, so why not give them a persona?
Love it. Now, Brett,
We do also, sorry, I have to just layer onto that. We do also have Dennis and Carol, the buses, and Tony. So everything around here has a bit of a human name as well.
Terrific. All right, Brett, since you've had your microphone open, let's have your thoughts.
Look, I might slightly deviate from the question, and I might address what Tim Cosgrove has put in the chat there as a question, because he's I guess I was a bit cheeky, and instead of introducing myself, went on the attack straight away with some current affairs within AI. And Tim's asked the question, why would AI be considered a replacement for educators, keeping in mind the multi-roles that educators face in the modern classroom? And young Mr. Esterman has pretty much given exactly what I think. He's written back there, I think people who don't know what teachers really do can suggest that the teachers be replaced. I remember reading Salakas' new book and holding back the nausea at the suggestion that some of those tools there might be able to completely solve the teacher shortage and students in hard to staff areas and kids that don't like coming to school. No problem, they'll be able to be taught by AI bots instead. And I think when you pause, and if you've actually lived in education, and exactly what Pip was saying about the opportunity to leverage AI and use AI to actually be more human and actually get in more contact with the students, that's actually what we need to do. We don't need to dehumanize our classrooms. We don't need to dehumanize. What we need to do is actually leverage AI to make what we're doing more efficiently, and then be able to actually have that human interaction. No AI tool, no bot is going to do quadratics to a 15-year-old and teach a 15-year-old to sit still and do quadratics straight after lunch. They'll do it because they have a relationship with Miss, or they have a relationship with Sir, and they've been able to have that bond, be instructed, and then go through and do the work. Now, will AI augment what the teaching has happened? Will it be that they can reiterate and get further instruction and practice and develop their skill? 100%, 100%. I'm all in on AI. I use AI every single day. It's going to make teaching easier. It's going to make studying more effectively, and it's going to help. And let's be honest, it's what students need to use to enter the workforce of tomorrow. However, we need to make sure that the humanity is at the center of what we do in education.
Thanks, Brett. I've just shared the question again for those who've just joined us before we had the question posed. So we'll hear from Nick and then Molly. Briefly describe your role and how you are seeing Gen AI being used to help teaching and learning within your context. Dr. Jackson, over to you.
Well, I'll focus on what's going on in my school if we're looking at the positivist angle. So recently we have moved very much the dial in terms of positivism. So 3 years into this journey now, which I suppose is a lot different to a lot of other schools in terms of the integration model. So we're very much working on a model. We have measurement in place, a system of measurement where teachers can self-assess and then are expected to self-assess later on in the year in different areas of their knowledge and skills and practice as regards generative AI, everything from ethics to application in the classroom to how much they're talking about it and so on and so forth. So we've got an integration model in our PD. We have also brought it into our PDR. So in terms of observations that go on, AI is a factor within that. So every teacher is expected to demonstrate some factor of AI within that observation. Either they're talking about it, they're bringing it into assessment, or so on and so forth. So probably quite advanced compared to other schools in terms of that integration cycle. In terms of students, just did a whole revision session for every students who are revising and looking to study for external exams. So how to use AI within that, featuring things like Google Notebook and using chatbots in various ways. Say, for instance, creating an escape room to revise about a topic instead of doing the same old boring rubbish in terms of revising that we've done for decades and decades. Right down to our junior school. This Monday I was down there. We're taking our responsible use guidelines and converting that to a junior school version, which will go right through the junior school. Then ELC, creating custom bots to do to help them with their reporting, which currently takes them 8 hours twice a year. 8 hours to create these reports, which are from their own observations anyway, which is a total waste of their time. So in other words, they can now spend that time with the little humans they're supposed to be spending that time with. So doing things like that right across the board. Yesterday I ran a session with SLT on the use of Claude to do higher level data analysis, data provocation, with any sort of data sets that you want that are important to you and that hits you right on the nose in terms of telling you how it doesn't like you and what you are doing wrong and how you are very inefficient and very ineffective. So yes, very comprehensive use right throughout the organization, from professional services to teachers to students, and every wild and wonderful way we can try and bring this to the masses, I guess.
Thanks, Nick. Now, Molly, before we throw it to you, Molly, being my colleague, I know some of the research that Adobe's been doing in this space. We're going to throw to you and throw to some of that research and get some responses for some of the data that came from that research. Some of our panelists may know of it. Some, it'll be fresh to them for the first time, as well as it is for many of you who are watching live. In fact, Molly, actually tell us about the context of the research first, then I'll play the video.
Yeah, absolutely, Tim. So this research paper was done with a Canadian consultancy firm called Advanis. And so we had over 3,000 different educators to try and collect a bit of a data set around using generative AI in the classroom, but with a particular focus around creativity. So we wanted to sort of first recognize how much it's being used out there and for what purposes, and then have a look at the effects of a tool such as the generative AI image tool, how it can really sort of help to enable students, so empower them to combat that blank page, and what sorts of effects is that having on the students, say in not only in their outcomes but also on their well-being. And so some really interesting data that has come out of that, and we'll make sure that we'll share that report with everybody here on the call today.
In a recent study by Adobe and the Canadian-based research firm Advanis, about 3,000 teachers from a range of countries and curriculum areas and levels were surveyed about their use of Gen AI in schools. Almost 90% of responders said that students are creating work with Gen AI tools for their coursework, with 20% being required to and 69% having the option to use Gen AI. All right, I'm just going to pause it at that particular point in time because I want to get some thoughts from the panel. 20% are required to, 69% it's an option, 11% not aware of any use at their school. This is from 3,000 teachers. It's an international study. What are your thoughts when you see that? Matt, over to you.
I wonder what optional means. That's my first my first question. Like, is it that they've been given permission? Is it that it's being ignored? Is it that there's clarity and alignment between the different stakeholders of the group? Or is it just basically, look, hear no evil, see no evil kind of an arrangement? I'd also be interested, to see how that layers on with students' confidence around when they do use it, if they do choose that option to use it, whether or not they'll get punished by this teacher or this teacher or this person, or whether that deputy principal in that school has the same agreement as the deputy principal down the road. I just wonder if there's, from a student point of view, if there's that confidence around, I've got the option, it's optional to use it, but I dare not because I might get punished for it.
Good. Pip, your thoughts?
For me, I think the student uses optional is really, to me, our gen who are using AI, some of them are still getting their head around whether they're allowed to use it or not, like Matt just said. So whether they are actually taking that opportunity. I know in our place it is open for anyone to use. We don't block anything, and we actually encourage AI, showing them how to do prompts and stuff. But many of our young people who are in that senior space feel like they're cheating. So we're trying to change their head to know that it's okay for them to use it. And I would actually hope that most of our young people are using AI in some way, shape or form. So I would prefer to take that up to, say, 90%.
Great. Brett, just a little bit more context here. Thanks, Pip. Brett, the data came from last year. This is last year's study. It was launched in January this year. So we're talking about probably this time last year. This is the situation. It'd be interesting to get a current figure. What are your thoughts when you see those sorts of stats?
Yeah, do you know what? Like, I remember reading not so long ago that in the exponential growth, we've probably all heard the stats of the usage data of ChatGPT, and I think the first few weeks were like the narrative that we all saw. There was lots of memes. Like I think most people probably on this call have Netflix, and I think it took Netflix something like 2.5 years to get 10 million users and all that sort of stuff, and it takes a long time, and it took Instagram about 8 months to do the same thing, and it took ChatGPT something like 4 days to do the same sort of stuff. Like this exponential growth, and it's just continued on and on and on since then. There's only been 2 statistical massive decreases in ChatGPT usage data over time periods. There's been 2 big downswings, and then it pops back up, and then it goes swings down again. And my instinct is that we're about to see another massive downswing, literally, I'd say probably starting this week or next week. So we'll probably have the 3rd massive user drop. Any quick guesses? Northern Hemisphere summer school holidays, the summer holidays of the Northern Hemisphere. So ChatGPT usage drops quite significantly during the Northern Hemisphere summer holiday break. So what you're presenting here with that research out of Canada and what Adobe has found certainly is backed up by the usage data that big large language models like ChatGPT are seeing. Whether teachers want to admit it or own it or lean into it or ignore it or whatever, the data is there. Students are using AI. We need to make sure we're not turning a blind eye to it, and that we're actually channeling them to use it wisely and ethically and morally and for the betterment of learning, not pretending that they're not using it, and then they're just whacking up a quick thing and we mark it as if it's come straight from the top of their noggins.
Thanks, Brett. Dr. Jackson, obviously your school would be a mix of the 20% and the 69%, I assume, depending on the classes. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm very interested in what age group is this, Brett? What age group of students? What middle school, junior school? What's the age range here?
Molly, do you remember? I think it's a cross range from primary and secondary.
It's and all the way through to higher education as well. So yeah.
So those figures represent all of that then in that mix. Because I think breaking that down would be very interesting, wouldn't it? And I would like a definition of coursework. Are we talking about an assessment piece, or are we talking about just an activity within a class? Is it formative? Is it just I wonder if that would skew the data somewhat, because I doubt that creative use of AI, there've been many senior students in Australian schools who would admit to that for a start off, or would even be permitted to, allowed to be. And then I do wonder about what is the use we're talking about here. If you're talking about something that's just doing a little, let's clean up a bit of text that I've wrote about in my little statement I've made about my piece that I've created, or are you talking about an image generator that's created it, or we could go on and on and on, couldn't we? So I think a generalized study that goes, it's more of a headline grabber, isn't it? I think the real essence of that, or the real information, comes from unpacking that. Is there a significant difference between junior school and senior school kids? Does it tail off when you go to university? What do we define as coursework? Does it suddenly tail off when it becomes summative and not formative? Does it tail off when it's HSC compared to non-HSC, and so on and so forth? And I think that would be quite startling, and would really then highlight how some of the things that have been talked about already, such as what kids are allowed to do and what they're not allowed to do, that would highlight how the system is just completely, sticking a middle finger up to what these kids actually want to do and they're doing when they're not put these restrictions on them.
That's true. In fact, I'll bring the QR code up again in a minute if you are interested in finding out more about this study, because there haven't been that many studies yet in this whole area. So it's nice to know that there is something out there that you can start getting your hands into and having a look at it. Molly, I'm just going to play some of the other stats that come through. Then I want to hear from you a little bit more about the study. So let's just keep playing this clip. This research also found that 67% of students who create with Gen AI did so at least weekly, with 21% using it each day. 94% of teachers said that Gen AI was helpful in increasing the speed of creation. 93% said that it improved creative confidence. 93% also said that Gen AI removed barriers for students without advanced design skills. 57% said Gen AI improved student engagement, and 51% said it improved student communication and self-awareness. So with some of those stats there, Matt, just coming back to you, any of those stats sort of stand out to you as worth having a discussion about?
Well, I think all of them in a way. I mean, the fact that it's 90+% of students, and I mean, taking into account things like, accessibility, and the fact that some students, wouldn't be able to answer this because they don't have access to certain things, of course, and all those concerns. I think I think they're good questions to ask, because I think a lot of the time it's teachers and systems and authorities asking almost what are the deficits, what are the gaps, what are the problems, and focusing on that and wanting to mitigate those risks. Whereas actually this has a more positive spin on it, and really we've got to meet students halfway on this stuff, and that's probably a simplistic way to express it. But I mean, they're just surrounded by the tools all the time. It's being integrated into apps they use every day. They don't even know they're using it some of the time, and that'll just continue. Nick mentioned that in a chat we had earlier today, is that students may not actually realize that they're using AI some of the time, just like they don't even think about reporting that they've used spell check or things like that. I mean, it's a different world. So for people to be reporting this means at least they're thinking about it. There's that sort of metacognition happening, that they're thinking about their thinking, they're thinking about their skills, they're thinking about their engagement. And so that encourages me.
Great. Thanks, Matt. Pip.
Yeah, this resonates really highly with me. We encourage our young people to step into entrepreneurship. And as part of that entrepreneurship, AI really helps them to take an idea that they've had. Let's go with the whole candle making business. Who doesn't love a teenage girl who wants to start a candle making business? So the idea is there, and being able to tap into AI to create your branding, to then tap into AI to help you. I want to create a candle company. How do I do this? Or a business, what do I need to do to step them through and break down an idea into an achievable list that helps them with engagement? Their design skills are not there. That generative AI like Adobe Express can help them to step into that space of creating amazing confidence. For us guides who we don't know anything about that as well, right? I don't know how to make a candle business, but I can assume, but I can step in with them, alongside them, and use AI as a tool to help us craft. So much so that we've created a GPT, her name is Candy, and Candy, a young person can type business, candle making business 5 weeks, and it will break that down into a 5-week flow using design thinking in that flow. It steps the ACARA outcomes into that for that age level for that person, and it allows them to actually have a plan in place, because we all know good ideas, no plan, no output. So, and we know teenagers are rife for that stuff, right? So it really allows that personalization and that ability to actually take an idea and input it with a guide. They're supporting them, of course. It doesn't do all of that, but it allows that guide to be the human to help them get through the roadblocks and the challenges. And that, in the end, leads to a greater self-awareness. So there's the story of your percentages right there on that screen.
I love it.
Yeah. So it's just one of the tools that we have for them. And then that, when used well, helps them to. We have a saying around here that young people have a far greater capacity than we give them credit for. And we feel, and that's a Parsi Salberg quote, and he's one of our board members, thank goodness. But that to me gives that ability for a young person to do exactly that.
Love it. And next time we have a panel session, can we have Candy come and join us?
Oh, Candy will join you anytime. She loves a chat.
Excellent. Brett, some of your thoughts?
So, look, I think I'll probably pick up on what a few things that have actually been said. Like when Pip was describing there what Candy is helping the students do with the with their entrepreneurial sort of candle making business there, we are developing skill sets that students can utilize in the real world when they become adults. If we focus on that, like, let's be honest, education is the goal is to have highly educated, productive members of society as our students enter into adulthood. We want to prepare them for the real world, the big world, as much as possible. And there's been a tremendous amount of research about the sort of skills that are needed for success within the world. I've seen actually Adobe talk specifically about creativity on a number of times. We know that creativity is one of the most desirable skill sets for successful employment later in life. Now, one of the things that you've just put up there is that AI can be used to be more effective, more engaging, and actually drive the creativity of our students. So you've got this Adobe long-term vision of creativity actually being able to be beneficial for students. You've got what Pip's saying here as a real lived example of how do we actually develop entrepreneurial spirit, how do we develop those interpersonal skills, how do we develop that creativity and big real world application of the human sort of broader skill set. And then we've got this AI variety of different GPTs or tools or Adobe Firefly, whatever it might be, to actually expedite the creation of our students' thinking. And I think that is a beautiful combination there. We know where we need to get to. It's been well documented what we need to develop and nourish and help flourish within our students. AI can help make that happen, and you've got the stats right there.
Thanks, Brad. And before I throw it over to Dr. Jackson, Pip, just to let you know, my next book is about one of Melbourne's most successful candle making businesses, candle making and soap businesses by my great-great-great-grandfather. So I'm just putting that out there. Hopefully it'll be out by the end of the year. Who knows?
Look, if you want a Year 8 girl to come and make some beautiful smelling candles to accompany your book signing, Esther's all over it for you.
I'll take you up on that. We might even have it at jail, hey? Anyway,
you come up to jail anytime.
Let's get back onto topic. Dr. Jackson, any of those stats actually resonate strongly with you?
No, I have nothing to say about candle making at all. Sorry. Now, is this student responses or is this teacher responses, Tim? I missed that. Which is this? Where have these figures come from?
These are teachers, Molly. Is that right? Do you want to just...
Yep, yeah. These are teacher responses, and again, just that breadth of the educated across sort of from K to 12 through to higher education. I can try and sort of dig a little bit, try and find the questions around this data, but that was it.
No, that's it. I think whether they do come from students or teachers, I would love to know if students' data would correlate this. But I think what's stunning about this is, doesn't this fly in the face of most of the rhetoric that's out there? Doesn't this completely and utterly wipe the floor with most of the media messages we're seeing, the destruction of young people's minds, how AI is stopping people thinking and stopping people existing, and it's going to kill us all? I mean, come on, this is completely flying in the face of this, isn't it? We're showing here that teachers are reporting what they're seeing in front of them, and you could pick them apart and go, well, that's not necessarily a good thing, the speed of creation is increased, or it's not necessarily a good thing that kids are not delving into advanced design skills. It depends on the context. But the reality is that, as Pip's just pointed out, there's plenty of use cases where we are not actually looking at kids to have advanced design skills. We're looking at them to be able to apply technology in certain circumstances, to be able to advance their ideas, to be able to quickly prototype, to be able to quickly visualize and stimulate their thoughts and their creativity to something that they can see is applicable in their world and they can see is tangible. So I think that stuff like data like this has got to be front and center. I doubt that it'll make a headline in the average tabloid, but maybe one day we can hope that happens, eh?
Love your thinking there, Dr. Jackson. Molly, is there anything else you wanted to share on that study before we move on?
No, look, I've provided the link for everyone. It's really worth delving into it. I did mention just before that the biggest surprise I think that I got was around the data around student well-being and fostering a sense of self-worth. And I had never really made that connection before between the use of that sort of generative AI tool such as Firefly and how it's helping with student well-being. So yeah, have a look at the report when you get a second.
So those people who are this live have now got the report as a link in the chat, but those who are watching the recording, that QR code will take you to that same link as we go. And I notice I've got Michelle Dennis up there on the top right-hand corner. It's an older image of our panel. I just need to say Michelle's got COVID and she's lost her voice today. So she pulled out at the last minute. It would have been lovely to have her thoughts. Many people know Michelle as the head of digital at Hailbury in Melbourne, but Hailbury's everywhere these days. So we wish you well, Michelle, and rest up because we know you've got a big important presentation at EduTech next week. So you stay well. Let's go with the next question. We're talking now about the pitfalls. We've talked a lot about the positives, which is great, but there are pitfalls. So what are some of the pitfalls in Gen AI use that you are currently experiencing? Matt, over to you.
Look, I think there's so many pitfalls. One of which is that it doesn't match what we normally do in schools, and I think so. One of the major pitfalls is that when you're trying to wrench it on, like with any technology, I suppose, but it is just such a different kind of technology as well. When you're trying to just bolt on, not wrench on, bolt on AI to what you're trying to do. So, okay, let's do a typical history research task and just say, yep, you can use AI. And the teacher has no idea, no transparency, no modeling. The task itself hasn't changed at all. So, of course, the kids do what they've done with Google the whole time, which is take the entire body of the assessment task notification, paste it in and see what happens. And I may or may not be seeing this at a university I do or maybe don't work at the moment in terms of basically that same process happening in first, second, and probably third year as well. Where, yeah, people are just like, if there's no guidance, if there's no modeling, if there's no transparency, there's no advice even about how to use it well, then students are just going to do what they do with Google, use it badly and not actually see all the benefits and the challenges to their thinking. And yeah, sure, they might save some time, but they're also missing all that benefit of the saved time as well, and the other ways you can work thanks to having saved yourself time. So I think that's one of the major pitfalls, is just trying to bash it into the current system without realizing that actually it's undermining that, and we've got to really rethink what we do and how we do it.
Thanks, Matt. Pitfalls.
For me, it's that people still fear it. That people are the old FUD days, the fear, uncertainty, and doubt is still very much flowing in our industry, and that need to hide your use of AI. We should be really proud that we're finding a way to use a new technology to make us able to be more human with our young people and to be able to focus more on relationships. We shouldn't feel like we have to hide the work that we do with AI. The other thing that, to me, at my level of use, is the lack of integration between tools. So ChatGPT, we can have agentic AI starting to come through, and we're able to create some flows happening across our tools, but still they're all separate silos. And to me, we need some of that flow between the silos a little bit more. And that people still see it as an add-on when it's actually just should be just part of that toolkit we pull out every time we're stepping into a learning experience. That's probably, I guess, how I see it at the moment.
Thanks, Pip. Brett.
Yeah, I'll say two things. One of the risks obviously is an over-reliance on an AI tool, and then because of that over-reliance, a potential de-skilling of our natural skill. If we've got a lot of the people on the call here, probably experienced educators. We've made 1,000 different lesson plans. We know how to tweak things to meet particular needs. If I'm a younger new start teacher and I'm relying on AI generating a lesson for me, am I going to be able to fine tune that that skill. I know I had a very similar conversation with a law firm very recently, and a lot of the nuances of law and practice within the law comes from that hard grind of having to develop different things, and it's boring and it's not fun, but you end up knowing laws inside out and back to front, and what can and can't do with the application of them. If you're getting AI to do the heavy lifting, are you then de-skilling some of that knowledge? We have to be aware of that so that we can set that opportunity up appropriately to develop those skills. I think if we pretend that's not a potential risk, then there's the risk of that coming to fruition. However, if we're aware of it, we can set up certain barriers there. The biggest risk, though, I think with AI is the risk of the AI grifter. That to me is greater than any actual thing, greater than security, greater than de-skilling, greater than all sorts of stuff. The AI grifter who will present themselves as an AI in education expert and be able to advise schools and advise systems and advise entire jurisdictions to go down various pathways within AI, just because it's their thought or their instinct or whatever. We don't have enough research. We don't have enough knowledge. AI in education is too new for there to be multiple people claiming to be experts. In my book, there's probably only 2 people in all of Australia that I would actually claim have enough skill and enough knowledge and enough experience of years on the ground within this area to be an actual or authentic AI in education expert. And it's probably Genevieve Bell and Toby Walsh. They're the only 2 I could think of who have actually put the years in to lead not only Australia but globally as genuine thought leaders in this space. The rest of us are exploring with AI in education. We might be expert education practitioners. We might be very, very experienced with technology, but we are applying our knowledge to AI. And I think the people who are presenting themselves as experts, falsely presenting themselves as experts and driving jurisdictions to make certain choices, that's the greatest risk to education at the moment. That's my 2 cents, and I can unpack a few examples of that if I had a little bit more time. But do you know what? These are the conversations that we need to have. These are the research that we need to share. This Adobe research that you just put up. I love what Nick was saying before there about these. That's data that flies in the face of the narrative that we're hearing, because we're giving air and volume to people who are self-proclaimed experts who haven't actually been able to be in it long enough for it to be an expert within the field. So that's probably why the narrative is a little bit off. So this is why I love coming on. I love being able to talk to you, Tim. I love being able to talk to all the people here. And this is what we need to do. We need to flesh out these ideas a little bit more. We need to have robust discussions about what's right, what's wrong, and we need more evidence to I guess, justify certain decisions that are made within AI in the education space.
Thanks, Brad. I'm feeling a bit guilty because I advertised you all as experts in this area, but that's just what I do. Hey, Dr. Jackson, final words from you on this question. Pitfalls.
Yeah, I think just tagging on from what Brett's talking about there is, as I see this, is that there's some key things that we have to address. Number one is a values piece. What do you value in your school? What do you value in your context? What do you value in your subject? What do you value in your faculty in higher education? And different values are set in different places. And regardless of where you live, work, exist, what partnership, what love life you are in, you will have values around that, and they'll be unique to you and your context. So therefore, wherever you are educated should have values, and those values need to be outlined to young people around generative AI, and they really are set, to me, at a faculty level. I think that's the most sensible way to approach this within a school, but they also come from the school itself. So if you look at that there, that's going to dictate a lot of what happens around the way generative AI is used within those contexts. But the other piece of this, I think I'm coming to the conclusion now, as Brett's just been talking about, is that there's a big difference between somebody with lived experience being able to make confident decisions about when and where to use something. And this doesn't just apply to AI. This this is common sense, isn't it? You're not going to put a young person in a car in the first time they've ever drove it and go, hey, go for your life. You know, you're going to actually guide them through it. So if we look at that, we've got to, it's really a matter of self-efficacy, self-awareness, self-reflection, all those things. And if we can teach young people the skills of that, they will be better operating with generative AI and using this technology and knowing when too much is too much, or when the cognitive offload is happening, or when they're becoming addicted, and all those questions. And if we work on those elements, young people, yes, they will still make mistakes, as they do with everything else they do in life, which is part of learning, but they will make less mistakes, and ultimately they will become confident users like some of us are professing to be. And that's the only way forward. There's no way of safely packaging these things up and expecting that people are not going to make mistakes and everything's going to be rosy and we'll put it back in the box and AI will go away tomorrow.
So many wise words. Now, we're going to wrap things up in a few minutes' time. So I want some short responses to the last two questions. The two questions are, what are the implications of AI on student assessment and grading? But I want a really quick, short 30-second response from each of you, including you, Molly, as well. And then the last question from you for a 30-second response will be, how can schools address the potential for AI to replace human educators and the impact on employment? So, Brett, you touched on that earlier, but I only want 30 seconds from each of you so we can finish on time. So let's go with the first one. What are the implications of AI on student assessment and grading? Matt, over to you, 30 seconds.
Cool, because I've got to take kids to soccer training in a few minutes as well. Okay, significant, incredible, incredible disruption, especially if we're focused on traditional assessments and trying to hold on to things that may not matter and may not have mattered before AI came along. But there are schools that are doing amazing things and we should look at those. What was the second one again about workforce and things? We don't know what the future of workforce is, but there will be certain tasks and certain requirements of teachers that we have currently that will be either partially or completely done by AI. And that's true for admin staff and support staff as well. Pip's already given some examples of that. So I think it will be dramatic. It'll be all encompassing and we don't really know what it looks like yet.
All right, so you've covered both questions there, which is fine. Pip, I'll get you to address that first question. What are the implications of AI on student assessment and grading?
So as a school that doesn't actually do assessment, so we don't have assessment tests or anything like that, we use AI as just part of what we do, like I've mentioned, and portfolios are discussed every 5 weeks with parents and guides and young people, and we set goals and we talk about challenges and we show evidence of growth in the previous 5 weeks, and we set goals for the first 5 weeks, so the next 5 weeks. So within that context, the AI is just one of the tools that we use among it. And if they're able to reflect, young people are able to reflect on their learning by talking about the AI that they used in that process, that's good enough for me.
Cool. Pip, just go on to that last question. How can schools address the potential for AI to replace human educators?
It's not going to replace human educators. Like, let's just get rid of that. What it's going to do is change the landscape a little bit so we can actually, everyone in education is there because they love hanging out with young people, right? And we've forgotten that because of all this stupid box ticking we have to do. So if AI allows us to do the box ticking and be more human, then I'm all for that. And I feel we will end up with a better, happier, more relational workforce than we've ever had before.
Love it. Thanks, Pip. All right, Brett.
Yeah, I'll be super fast. I think the biggest impact that AI will have on assessment is actually feedback, the speed of the feedback loop, being able to use AI to give feedback to students. We know that feedback is one of the highest effect sizes we can have on student learning. So I think that's a particularly obvious area to see AI develop in and teachers develop their practice in giving feedback there. I'm in sync with Pip with the question there about what will happen with AI replacing teachers. The answer is they won't. AI will not replace teachers, and any single person who's listening to this or any single person who disagrees with me, I am very, very happy to take you on in person and let's debate that live. I make that statement right now. You disagree with me? Let's have a very public discussion about it.
Love it. Thanks, Brett. Dr. Jackson.
Which one am I answering?
Go with assessment.
Okay, what was the question? How will it change assessment? This could go one of two ways. It depends. I can see Texas, with what they've decided at higher education, could actually have a negative effect where they're going to police now all assessments at higher education level. That's what their CEO said. This could mean more of written exams. It could mean more of that kind of assessment. I hope, though, that new metrics, which is going on currently, and the work that's happening in SACE, capabilities, and the move away from ATAR, that it's actually going to see more of that path. But I just don't know. I think we're going to see a bit of both in that, which, unfortunately. If you're talking about replacing teachers, that's just ridiculous. What it will do, it will change a teacher's role, and that's got to be a good thing. If I'm going to spend 8 hours doing reports in ELC and carry on doing that, then that can't be a good thing, can it? So let's just get away from all the rubbish that we have to do and get down to what we should be doing.
Thank you, Nick. Now, Molly, quick thoughts from you just to wrap things up.
Yeah, look, I'd actually like to tack on to what Nick was saying there about higher education institutions actually going back. It might have an adverse effect. We've been working with a lot of higher education institutions that are looking at authentic assessment and changing it because of the advent of AI. And they're doing things more like video and podcasting and really demonstrating that it's the work of the students. And in that, they're also building those creativity skills, using AI along the way maybe. But it's really exciting to see what some higher education institutions are doing to, make sure that it's authentic assessment, that they're assessing what they should, and it's the person behind it, the human.
Thank you, Molly.
Yeah, I wanted to add that. Thanks.
Excellent. We do have to wrap things up. I'm just going to quickly promote our newsletter. Our June newsletter is now out and available. I haven't emailed it out to anyone yet. It's still in its final construction phase. There's maybe 1 or 2 more stories to come, but most of the bulk of it's there. So if you look up Adobe apacedu.com, you'll be able to see the June edition of the newsletter. And let's just finish off by saying thank you to Pip and to Brett and to Nick and to Molly and of course to Matt, who has had to go. And thank you everyone who joined us live for this session. And those watching the recording, I hope you enjoyed it. And we look forward to seeing you next term when we start a new series of Wednesday webinars, which we will be titling Weekly Webinars, because they may not all be on a Wednesday. But thanks again, everyone. We'll catch you another time. All the very best. Thank you for being part of this Wednesday webinar from the ANZ Adobe Education team. We hope you found it helpful. While you complete the feedback form via this QR code or link, note that Wednesday webinars are one of a number of free events and resources that we have for teachers as well as for students. More information is available on the ANZ Adobe for Education site, available via adobeanzedu.com. If you haven't yet joined the Adobe Creative Educator ACE community by completing ACE Level 1 or 2, you can find out more via adobe.ly/ace-apac. Also, keep up to date with our monthly newsletter via adobeapacedu.com. Thanks again for being involved in this webinar. We look forward to seeing you at the next event. Keep being creative.